Welcome, this is Carrie Schell from On Point Quilter. In today's tutorial, I'm going to talk to you about auditioning quilting designs in Electric Quilt. So I'm going to start this tutorial in Art and Stitch. Art and Stitch is the program that I use to design my digital files for my computerized long arm system. And this really isn't an Art and Stitch tutorial, but what I wanted to do was audition a couple of designs in EQ to see if it's going to look good with my paper snowflake project. And I also want to check out the sizing to see the best sizing before I move this to my long arm system. So I'm going to start with my first snowflake meander. And the first thing I'm going to do is just click on the design, and you can see that the start and the stop point is at the same point, which means this is a pantograph and that I can use groups of these together and they will all be connected. So we just take one though, and we're going to apply running stitch, and then we're going to do a file save as. And we're going to navigate to my EQ8 images, and we're going to call this snowflake meander. And for the file type, I'm going to select one of the stitch types, and the type I want to select is the EXP because that is a format that Electric Quilt can recognize. So I'm going to select that, and I'm going to select save. And I can ignore any warnings on the hoop size because that's not important. Then I'm going to go to my second snowflake meander, and I'm going to select that, apply running stitches, and then do a file save as. And for this I will also just do an EXP snowflake meander, save under my EQ8 images, and select save. So now I am ready to go to Electric Quilt. I have opened Electric Quilt, and I have navigated to the quilt that I have done. Since the last session, I did decide to create a few additional snowflakes for the corners. Now I want to import my designs from Art and Stitch into Electric Quilt. So I am going to go to Layer 3 and select Embroidery Tools. And I wanted to select Open Library and select Import from EXP files, hence the reason we save to an EXP file. I'm going to navigate to my EQ8 images. I'm going to sort on today's date, and I'm going to take my two snowflake files, and I can just select them both with the Shift key and select Open. Now it says that the EXP file does not contain thread color, so we will have to add that later. But I'm going to select OK, and now I'm going to select all embroidery and add to sketchbook and close. Now the ones I just added are the last two. I am going to start with this one, and I'm on layer 3. I've got set embroidery on. I'm going to drag this onto my quilt. Now that seems way too big, so I am looking at this and it's like 16 by 16. I'm going to select Preserve Aspect Ratio, and I'm going to bring the width down to 7. For this, I also want to use the grid snap options. So the show grid isn't really pertinent, but we can snap the block position to grid. So I want to turn that on. I also want to take the grid snap increment and in the drop down select every inch. So that will mean my upper left corner of my applied design must be at a 1 inch increment. So when I've got this placed, it's at like -3, -3. Now I'm going to do a fit to work table, and I'm going to do a copy and a number of pastes. And the second one I'm going to put underneath, and I'm just going to separate these a little bit. So now I want to zoom in, and if I look, I can line these up so that they are connected. And that's because the block size was set at that 7-inch width, so it's working with my 1-inch snap to grid. And so I will continue to copy paste and position. Now I didn't quite fit across horizontally, so I'm going to make a couple more, and I'm just going to run this off the quilt. And when I use this on my long arm, obviously I will stop before that. So I like that particular size. Obviously the black doesn't work very well. So I'm going to go to my thread tools, and I am going to find a light blue, and I'm going to use swap thread and click on my design. And I do need to sometimes it's hard to get to the thread. Okay, once I have that colored, now I can zoom out with the fit to work table, and I can decide if I want to change my thread color, if I want to change my sizing. But at this point, what I'm going to do is go ahead and just do an add to project sketchbook, because now I want to try the second design. Now I'm going to go to embroidery tools, and I'm going to select the second design, and under set embroidery I am going to just single click on each of the current designs, and it will replace it. So I don't have to do any resizing with that unless I want to try a different size. Then I'm going to go to the thread tools. I'm going to select swap thread, and I'm going to zoom in and select one of those, and it will recolor. I will do a fit to work table to allow it to zoom out, and now I can go ahead and add this to the project sketchbook. Now I actually decided I liked the second one better, so that's the one that I will use in quilting my quilt, and I like the sizing on it, so when I bring it into my long arm system I will use the size that I've additioned here as well. Thanks so much for watching. For additional tips and techniques, please subscribe to my weekly newsletter at www.onpointquilter.com and check out my Electric Quilt class offerings. They are all online as well.